it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
S.W.Frost is now live streaming Diablo 4 digital artist in battlepass free.
An aspect of a dream coming true. When I was a kid, all of us as actors, I believe, want to get back to that day before someone told you no. When you look out your door and you see a 5-year-old kid with a stick and he's slaying dragons to save the princess in the tower, that kid really believes there are dragons out there. That stick is really a sword and he's really trying to save that princess. And then one day, somebody told him, no, there are no dragons, that's not a sword, and that princess is not there. And all of his little dreams were dashed. So, as an actor, I feel like our job is to get back to the day where we see that dragon and we slay that dragon to save that princess. And that's kind of what this movie was for me.
So we'll listen to the beginning part again, just because.
Jamais. Évidemment. Voilà. Yeah.
Laksha. Welcome to my channel.
Okay. Sure. Yes. It is
As I know that a lot of people are probably confused.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like,
Then I feel like you should change the name of the character. I do, because that's really confusing for the audience. It is. It's really confusing. How does this work? It's like Captain Planet isn't for the planet anymore. Like Batman doesn't have a Batmobile? Like, what is this? Superman can't fly? I don't get this. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, yes, I did see this, and obviously, as of no surprise to anyone.
Bad timing, man. I think it's fair to say that Wow, talk about bad timing, man. I think it's fair to say that Captain America: Brave New World has had a rocky ride these past few months. What with all the delays and the reshoots and the spiraling budgets and the growing
$400 million.
Like apathy towards the film. But hey ho, sometimes you just have to soldier through, right? And with the movie finally in the can and the premiere just a couple of weeks away, maybe the worst was finally behind them now. All they really had to do was stay the course, keep their mouths shut, and
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, you know, America should be one of those representations.
Oh.
How do you get here?
Oh. The comments
How
in
do you
question
get
come
here?
from a press event in Rome a couple of weeks ago where Anthony Mackie shared his thoughts on what Captain America means to him and others. And wow, talk about a bad choice of words.
You know, it's kind of, this is kind of like a
Are you dumb or something?
It's funny, you know, because you can tell by the way he's stumbling and hesitating after he
He
said it,
knows,
that
yeah.
he knew he'd fucked up and was desperately scrambling for a way to recover, only to make the whole thing even worse.
Yep.
it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
See, when you base your premise on excluding America from the character's identity, even though he's called Captain America, and then go on to list all of his virtues like keeping his word and doing the right thing, you're implicitly suggesting that those very traits no longer represent what America is as a country. And well,
Exactly, yeah, he's talking shit. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little bit fucking tired of people that constantly have bad shit to say about America. Constantly. Especially when it's bullshit like this. And I'm sorry, but like, if you're playing Captain America, you shouldn't be shitting on America. It's fucking ridiculous.
that's not exactly a popular sentiment right now, both from a character and a cultural point of view. Patriotism's always been at the core of who Captain America is as a character. It's the very reason he joined the army and risked his life to be part of the Super Soldier program in the first place, because he wanted to fight and defend not just America, but American values of freedom, justice, and equality. He represents the idea.
And that's the thing, is that like, yeah, Captain America is the guy that you want to be like. He's like, that's why he could lift Mjolnir and fight Thanos in fucking Endgame. It's because he was that guy.
And aspirations of the greatest generation, the men who fought and sacrificed to make the world we live in today, men who loved their country and in return were loved by it. To take that away from him is to hollow out the core of who he is, and it demonstrates a real lack of understanding of what makes him such a timeless hero in the first place. The other reason is cultural. American national pride seems to be going through a bit of a comeback these days. Can't imagine what that feels like. And our tolerance for rich, opinionated Hollywood celebrities is at an all-time low. I can definitely imagine what that feels like. Combine these two factors together and you've got a powder keg just waiting to explode. And it seems
people
like
are tired of hearing, they are tired of hearing about people whose entire lives are filled with luxury and privilege that are constantly deriding the place that all of that comes from. Like, these are people who are like multi-millionaires, massively successful because of America, and now you're saying how bad it is. It's fucking annoying. It's so fucking annoying.
Anthony Mackie might just be the match. The thing is, I actually like Mackie as an actor, and until now, he's generally been pretty solid when it comes to interviews like this.
I'm not going to act like one statement is like a big deal. I think it's stupid to say that, but it doesn't mean I hate the guy now. Yeah, of course, that's silly.
My kids to the movies to see Avengers. It was $150. I'm like, I don't even want to see myself that much.
So I really want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. It might be that because he was in Europe instead of America, he was trying to find common ground with his audience and emphasize the character's universal heroic appeal. Shit, man, he might...
I think that's, honestly, I feel like that's a really charitable and reasonable perspective to have. I could see that. Yeah, sure, that's fair.
Even have been fed talking points like this by some dumbass PR advisor from Marvel. The backlash, though, has gotten so bad that he even had to come out and clarify his position with an official statement. Let me be clear about this. I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I've got the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to. Again, I don't pretend to know the guy, so I'd prefer to believe that he's telling the truth here, and this has all been a big misunderstanding caused by a poor choice of words. Either way though, it all contributes to a generally negative atmosphere that seems to be building around this movie and Mackie's version of the Captain America character. Let's not forget that the last time we saw Sam Wilson with the shield, it was in the racially and politically charged Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a show that saw racism around literally every corner, that tried to frame violent terrorists who murder innocent people because they want free stuff as sympathetic anti-heroes.
The terrorists only set us back a bit.
You have to stop calling them terrorists.
I mean, this girl.
I feel like when you target and kill innocent people, you're the bad guy. I do. I feel like you're the bad guy. Like, I can understand collateral damage as an act of war. Sure. But, like, when you're targeting and killing it, like, what is this? What are we doing?
Trying to stop you. And no one has stopped for 1 second to ask why.
And whose genius solution to complex social and political problems requiring years of diplomacy and compromise was... And the thing is, that show didn't even resonate particularly well at the time, when all of this ridiculous stuff was arguably at its peak. But holy shit man, have things changed since then. Americans have gotten a bit tired of being told that their country sucks by elitist pricks who only exist because of the very privilege it provides, and for a lot—
Fucking true. Absolutely. That is exactly what it is.
Of MCU fans, Sam Wilson kind of represents that cynical, anti-patriotic, anti-American era of Marvel filmmaking. Someone who was literally handed the achievements of a guy who fought and sacrificed more than he ever did, and then had the brass neck to complain about it afterwards. In short, I think a lot of people were just looking for reasons to hate this film, and whether he meant to or not, Anthony Mackie might just have given them exactly what they were looking for. The only question now is whether Captain America can hope to survive the firestorm. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
I'll be honest. I think it was really stupid he said that. It was. But given that he's talking about it in Europe and he's trying to relate to the people that live there, I don't think that there's enough. Like, I wouldn't go nuclear. I wouldn't try to shit on this guy. Like, I think it's dumb that he did it, but at the same time, like, I don't think there's, given the context and everything, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't really feel right getting super angry about it, right? That's the way I see it. Am I crazy? Like, I mean, maybe I am, but that's the way I feel about it. Yeah, it's just not enough. And you think he'll blame racism when the movie flops? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of people, they definitely see, I mean, this is a great video. I'll link it. I honestly, I didn't even know this. I think that, honestly, this is a really measured take. And I think this is extremely fair video. Like, 100% fair video. And yeah, they need a PR manager? Well, I mean, people are going to say whatever they're going to say, right? That's always what happens. So, yeah. You said Captain Planet earlier. Why, I wish they would make a Captain Planet movie. Yeah, maybe, right? And what's a movie about? Racism? Well, I don't know if it is or not. I mean, it's a modern day movie. I think that I was talking about another TV show that was like set in the past, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. But either way, the point is that, like, yeah, I feel like it's just kind of a weird situation to be in. Yeah, he said, what's this here? And Dutch or nothing. I think people are angry because they hate of America. Like you said in the video, it's not about the actor. Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Let me go back. We'll look at a few other things too. But I did see this, and it was a bit awkward, a bit weird. But yeah. What's testing on humans? What's this? I made an animation for Zach. Oh boy, miserable life. Oh, good.
It's April 20th, 1990, and you are 16.
That's not my birthday. That's Hitler's birthday. I don't know how this happened, but it did. And people keep saying this. And I remember every 420, everybody comes in and is like, happy birthday. It's not my fucking birthday. That's Hitler's birthday. Stop it.
9 minutes old. You have a few hairs on your head, but you shouldn't get too excited because you won't have them for too long.
Okay. All right, that's great.
Despite having Florida as your starting zone, you will have to level up in Austin, Texas.
That's right.
During your early years, you will be in the tutorial
This is
zone.
amazing.
All you do in the tutorial zone is to sit with the boys and talk about
Dylan and Cody. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god.
video games.
No way. All right.
I love spending time with you guys.
During this time, you have to go and attend business school and earn a bachelor's degree in business studies. This is a main story quest you have to complete in order to finish the tutorial and be able to play the main endgame. At the age of 16, a random friend appears who will gift you with the video game entitled
I
World
bought the game, but yes.
of Warcraft. Until this day, nobody knows who gifted you the video game. It is known only that it was one of your friends, so I am just going to assume it was the fat one. You now have to...
Okay, two things. He wasn't fat back then. Number two, also, it wasn't somebody that gifted it to me. I bought it from a guy in my computer class. A little bit different.
Spend 16 hours every day for the next 20 years playing this game.
Yeah.
To be more exact, you have to spend 116,800 hours playing World of Warcraft until you reach age 35. You don't drink water. Instead, you only drink Dr.
What
Pepper.
the fuck is this? Look, these are NES games? Oh my god. This looks pretty nice.
You will be drinking around 6 to 12 cans of Dr. Pepper every day.
Yeah.
One Dr. Pepper can contains 38 grams of sugar. So every single day you will be consuming from 228 grams of sugar to 456 grams of sugar.
Is that a lot?
This amount of sugar is necessary to keep your energy levels up in order to pawn noobs in World of Warcraft. Since you have to spend...
Yeah, it does, because in Sekiro, there's an item called Yasumoto Sugar, and it makes you do more damage. Yeah, I know that.
16 hours playing World of Warcraft, you don't have time to cook food. Therefore, you will only eat fast food, which in time will damage your health and make you weak. During this time, you will progressively start to lose hair from your head.
Okay, we're 1 minute in and this is already happening? This is crazy.
Since you are playing so much World of Warcraft, your real life slowly fades and your virtual life flourishes.
I never got
Since your
this
real
one.
life slowly fades away, so do the friends you used to hang out with.
Sorry, Asmin, but I have to spend more time with my wife and my other two girlfriends. I also promised my kids I will bring
Did Dylan commission this? Like...
them to Disneyland. I don't have time to spend time playing that game anymore. I am sorry I have cursed you by gifting you the game. So long, friend. Bye.
I expect you to eat that. I agree with him, Asmund. This game is cursed, and I have a feeling that in time this game
I bet he was playing it today!
we talk about politics only. I am sorry, but I too have to quit this game. Plus, I have a boyfriend, so I should spend more time with him.
By now, you have completely stopped going outside. Your room looks like a Mordor diorama, which I think is pretty cool because Lord of the Rings is amazing.
That's right,
At
I'm an
age
Nazgul.
30, you have completely lost your real life. The smell of dead rats in your room does not affect you anymore.
It hasn't for years.
Instead, you will be very good at sensing the smell of rats in your guild who don't play the game well. By now, your dedication to World of Warcraft has gained you millions of followers and dollars.
That's
but
right.
despite having millions of dollars, you are unable to use them because you have lost your life a long time ago. Instead,
Jesus!
World of Warcraft gold and mounts are much more attractive to you.
Buying carries?
As time passes, the game you love will backstab you and turn against you.
This is... Like, I don't know if the person making this is a fan or a hate watcher. This is crazy. Because it's going back and forth.
Hey, Asmon, my name is Bobby Kotick, the Lord of Terror and Darkness, Destroyer of Happiness and Joy, Creator of Emptiness and Dark Void. And I am here to add the following updates to your favorite game, Pandas furries, dragons, store mounts, instant max level bundles, remove the sense of community. Make the game 95% solo play, instant dungeon queues, 100,000% mount flying speed, extra new races with absolutely low effort graphic overhaul, and overall I will make you a slave of the game. I hope you enjoy my ideas. Like, subscribe, and share. By the way, I am not doing this because I am frustrated that I am 5 feet 6 inches tall. I am doing this only to suck the joy of every living human being who found the joy playing the game, because I need to suck the joy out of people in order to survive. I feed on sucking the joy of other people. So, no, I am not doing this because I am only 5 feet 6 inches tall. So,
I have no idea about that.
Do you want to pay for a 6-month subscription? You will get a free store mount if you do so.
You have now lost your virtual life too.
Yes, that's right. This was brutal, man.
During this time, you are going to be lost. You will try other games, but nothing will scratch the itch.
Oh my god. Fucking final. Oh, Jesus.
Instead of playing World of Warcraft for 16 hours every day, you will now complain about Blizzard for 16 hours every day on stream. You will jump into drama, politics, and hentai.
Yes.
During this time, your chat has to endure.
He knows what he's doing, but keeps dying. He is balding. Back to the good old times. Turn off the game, Grandpa. Quote, easiest boss of my life. What the fuck?
This and put their copium masks, hoping that one day everything will go back to normal. You will now try to regain your real life back. You will try to go outside and do normal.
I remember that.
Like building an igloo, and you will try to cook for yourself $2 steaks.
I did that.
But despite trying, you won't be able to regain your real life back, so you quit trying. At this point, you have accepted your defeat and started creating more content about politics and drama. Despite not being able to enjoy World of Warcraft anymore, you are still the king of the virtual world. You are getting millions of views and you are making millions of dollars. But sadly, none of this scratches the itch. The virtual life you had in World of Warcraft will forever be lost, and this will now haunt you forever.
You know, the funny thing is that's probably the worst part of this video, and he's right about that. It remember, it was so good back in the day whenever you would just like wake up in the morning and you would just play video games all day and you'd feel like you didn't waste your life. Like that would oh man, that would be so good.
After losing your real life and after losing your virtual life, you finally decided that it's time for a change. In October 2024, you will finally clean your room after 35 years.
I did that. I thought the ending was gonna be I was gonna kill myself. That's what I was expecting. Okay, is this Gladiator? Wow. Jesus Christ.
Love it.
Video game company start without a CEO? This is so ridiculous.
After cleaning your room, you've also started being healthier. You now finally drink water, and you also decided to add protein bars in your diet. I have no clue how the protein bars are going to help, but I hope it does. After years of torment are finally healing. The future looks bright, and you are on the right path.
Just
kidding.
kidding.
Doesn't end falling into a volcano for World of Warcraft.
Not
the
yet.
same way Gollum fell into Mount Doom for the One Ring. Instead, in this story, you transform yourself from Asmongold the Grey into Asmongold the White.
I look like a fucking idiot.
Grey into Asmongold the White.
Jesus, I look like a goddamn fool. Man, we really gotta do something about this, huh? That's crazy. And damn, vegetables win. I mean, isn't pizza a vegetable? So I feel like we kind of do that already. This was pretty fucking good, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know what to expect about this. And my favorite part about it is how brutal it is. Some of this stuff is fucking awful, and other parts of it are just hilarious. I love this. Yeah, this is amazing, guys. Miserable life. Yeah, I guess so. And holy shit. Yeah, this guy only has 250 views. This is amazing. Aswan is watching this right now. Bro, has he seen this yet? Oh, God. Jesus. I always say talking shit about successful YouTubers doesn't make you famous. It's pathetic to attract unwanted. It absolutely does work. It does. Look at all the videos Pegasus made about Mr. Beast, okay? He's doing great. So that's not true. You can farm people all the way to the fucking, all the way to the bank. Yeah, definitely not true at all. And what's this? Do you check which countries and regions watch you? Yeah. I mean, I have viewers, I mean, everywhere, right? I mean, it's mainly going to be English-speaking countries, primarily. But I was always very surprised whenever I never expected, I have a lot of viewers from the Middle East, and there's like a handful of them that watch from South America too, but I have a lot of European viewers. I remember somebody from Twitch told me that like 4 American streamers actually have like one of the highest ratios of like American to European viewers, where that there are a lot of Europeans that watch. So yeah, I think it's actually quite common. So yeah, from Malaysia, South Africa, yeah, no doubt, man. And Italy representing, exactly. I mean, there's plenty of people from everywhere. I mean, I feel like that's kind of I mean, that's the good thing about the internet, right? Is like everybody's there together and people are just chilling, right? People can all just sit together and fucking laugh at this shit. Ubisoft, after making yet another flop, that's why I'll never forgive the Japan. Jesus, man. Yeah, that's kind of true, isn't it? Anon on Asmongold. Clicks on video. Yeah. Yeah, dude, this video makes a pretty good point. Yeah. That's pretty true. Pause this video. What he just said is really true, actually. Unpause this and nods along more. Yeah. People watch and donate money to this nonsense need to be culled. What can I say? It's an honest day's work. So true. Not wrong? Yeah, I guess so. I'll read some of the comments. I'm sure the comments on this are going to be great. And let me see if I can find them. Good point, actually. True. Yep, absolutely. Giving your hard-earned money to a multimillionaire goblin Twitch streamer rather than just using it is the most pathetic thing anyone could do. No, I don't know about that. I think that there's even more pathetic things, but it's definitely not up there. Chad, is this true? Yeah, well, it is, actually. And feigns nuanced, intelligent conversation by repeating bullshit I read on r/politics. So true. You know what? I'm probably banned from politics, the subreddit. Because you actually take a 10-minute video? Yeah, what is this here? He took Samantha Hyde's 45-minute video to Elon and turned it into a 2-hour fucking video. He's like Rumpelstiltskin, weaving content out of nothing. That's crazy. Who is this guy? Yeah, there we go. And what's this here? Not looking for a ban, but as a viewer, I definitely feel like I have some questionable takes, like the Pirate Software drama, Elon Musk gaming situation, reacting to Sam Hyde video is also wild. Well, I think that really, I mean, there's going to be people that disagree with whatever I say, but I think the Elon Musk drama with like him banning me, I feel like that's not really too crazy, is it? Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm not going to ban him. It's fine. I mean, if somebody voices a legitimate concern without being abusive or hostile, then why would I ban them? No, that's totally okay. And yeah, that's fine. And also the Sam Hyde video, Sam made a lot of really good points. And I understand people don't like Sam, and I think there's a lot of reasons, and I can see why, for sure. But if he makes some good points, I'll listen to it, and then I take what I like and I leave what I don't. It's simple. I don't need to agree with everything to watch something. That's it. And so, yeah, I really don't think it's that complicated at all. Please comment. It's a really good point. Yeah, sure. And what's wrong with discussing topics? Yeah, it was a huge conversation point. Of course I'm going to talk about it. Yeah, there we go. Let's see here. And nah, the dude talks, just doesn't watch. Okay, I can't read that one. And the lack of racial language words is surprising. I can't do that. Yeah. And it's crazy. Like when he said he wouldn't trust science done on rats because rats aren't people. I mean, he has a point. It's only tested on rats. It means it hasn't yet passed a clinical trial. A lot of people are reluctant to go through clinical trials, so they want to make sure the drugs are safe. He doesn't have a point. It would be far too expensive. So this is the way that experimental testing works, right? It's like, so you create like this is my understanding at least, is you create like a hypothesis, you figure out like a way that you're going to do it, and then you apply it to animals, and if that works, then you apply it to humans, and then you apply it to people at large, right? That's just the way it is. And so for me saying that, like, I was all, this was very weird to me when people were mad at me because I said, oh, I don't believe it just because it happens to rats, because it had to do with Alzheimer's and sugar and the way that people process sugar. And they said rats' bodies are like ours. The scientists don't believe that it's conclusive either. They're using this as a point of evidence in order to move closer to doing testing on humans, which are different. So I thought this was like one of the I am very smart things, you know, that people have, where they were trying to call me out on that. So, because the funny thing is that the experimenters, the people that were doing those experiments would agree with me. They would agree with me. And people were just drawing a conclusion, this means it's true. I said, no, I don't believe it yet until I see it on people. Because, yeah, rats are close to people, but they're not people. Crazy that people are trying to think that they were smart because of that. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyway, that's beside the point. This is true. Very true. Absolutely. Very accurate. So true.
Okay then, Helldivers, we're back and we have got a lot to go over today as we are rapidly moving towards the 1-year anniversary on February 8th. It seems that everything's ramped up, the Jet Brigade is in full force, we have got so much happening with the space-time fluctuation indicator, and news is coming up left, right and centre. I don't know about you, but I am feeling so damn hyped up about where we're going for the 1-year anniversary. With that being said, though, we're going to dive into everything we've got happening today. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful like button and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It'd be greatly appreciated. And we announced the winner to the giveaways this weekend, so if you want to get involved, all you have to do is head down to the comments section, a purple heart, a red heart, and a yellow heart, and it'll enter you in for the top bundle of super credits in the game. Let's dive on into the game and see what it is that's happening right now. So first off, we got a new briefing just yesterday with regards to the latest major order, which, for those of you guys who don't know, is to liberate the designated planet to destroy the Automaton's Jet Brigade factories. Yes, they are back, so Short Bay is our target. But the briefing right here states that intel from the staging grounds for the Automaton Jet Brigade of Chewie has finally been deciphered, and the source of the violent unit is identified. The factories that produce the robotic marauders is located on Short Bay. Veteran Helldivers will never forget the Jet Brigade reign of terror that nearly prevented the construction of the Democracy Space Station. The bot unit was ultimately routed by the Helldivers, but the subsequent Illuminate invasion gave the automatons a chance to retreat and recover. Intel analysis have understood the automatons to be an intent upon reconstruction of the Jet Brigade. Projections indicate the unit is likely partially rebuilt. Striking now deep into the automaton territory will help prevent the recovery of the unit's full strength. Our citizens have been afforded the opportunity for justice. The citizens murdered and material values destroyed. The Helldivers are ordered to strike deep into the automaton territory with the objective of liberating Short Bay and destroying the Jet Brigade factories there. Now, yes, they seem to be back yet again, and it seems like the automatons just don't seem to give up with this Jet Brigade. And hopefully, for like the 19th time, we can now finally get rid of them and close off the Jet Brigade storyline. Now, really confusingly, we've just had a new intel report where long-range imagery of Short Bay has confirmed the presence of the Jet Brigade factories on its surface. However, no Jet Brigade augmented units have been spotted on the planet. It is possible they have not yet managed to rebuild their force in any significant capacity. As to what this means, I have no idea. Let me know in the comment section if you've got any sort of anticipation of where this is meant to be going, but that's your intel report. Apparently they're there, they're just not there. In other news though, we have got a lot happening with the space-time fluctuation indicator. Somebody has noticed that it has got so much stronger already just after a few days. As you can see on screen, they got a full change up right here where what it looked like on January 27th versus the January 30th just yesterday, and it has already ramped up about tenfold. So I can't wait to see where this one goes as we get closer towards February 8th's 1-year anniversary. Is definitely going to be an interesting one, that is for sure, because it's not the only thing happening to Meridia right now. It appears that Meridia's warp link to Astanu has been cut off, which is extremely interesting. Is this Meridia styled, or is this to do with the gloom? On top of that though, it's not only that planet as well. The Meridia warp link to Crimsica has now been cut off just a while afterwards. So this is now getting extremely concerning. Maybe the gloom is expanding, maybe Meridia is getting cut off, ready for a new planet to come through the mist, as we all seem to think that that is exactly what's happening, as the Illumina home planet could squeeze its way through that wormhole. But somebody put up a really in-depth description point on this, as they've been doing some really extreme work, and we knew that somebody would. But it states right here, something serious is happening with the Illuminate. Data coming through the API about space-time fluctuations has started flipping out. Are they summoning Meridia back through the wormhole? Somebody had posted up into the Discord right here that a mysterious value of API appeared once we got the wobble meter for the space-time fluctuations. This value started at around 550k and had a max value at 1 million attached to it. It was going down at first, but then started behaving weirdly and going up instead. We couldn't figure out why it had behaved like that and what it was supposed to mean. After a lot of data gathered, we figured out that it went up when there was like 2 or more simultaneous squid invasions, and down if there was 1 or less invasions. Eventually, the King of Misinformation proposed that the 1 mil max value was the same exact as the planetary HP, and notice at the rate it went down, with 1 invasion correlated at 0.1% minus of the 1 million max value, similar to decay rate. To add fuel to the theory, with 2 simultaneous, so the value goes up by 0.9% per hour. So G4 proposed that the value naturally goes down by minus 1.1% an hour, and every ongoing squid invasion makes it go up by 1% per hour. The theory is proven correct today, as the value is going up by 2.9% per hour, with 4 simultaneous squid invasions, exactly as G4 proposed. TLDR, Meridia grows, despair and panic, their effing approaches. Is going to be an absolutely crazy time inside of the game, because this is going to bring us some absolutely chaotic stylings come that 1-year anniversary, or at least that's the date that we seem to be thinking. So D-Day may be around the corner with February 8th. In other news though, yesterday we managed to do something absolutely incredible. We did the push for Colin on Vernon Wells, and we managed to hit a 4% per hour on Vernon Wells, with around 16 to 18, at some points 20,000 players over on that planet before the major order actually dropped. Now unfortunately, at the point of recording, it has now completely dipped down to just 1,500 players on Vernon Wells, but some people are still fighting hard to try and take that one. With a 75% liberation rate currently on there, it does seem that we are going to be failing this one and probably not taking it, as we've got a 3-week territory move on that one now. So a bit disappointing, but yesterday was such a humbling day in terms of Vernon Wells, and I kind of wish we'd managed to take it, but it is what it is. Moving on though, we have got a leak coming from Iron Sights, and this one is quite an interesting one with a new objective. So if you guys don't want to see this, you need to be clicking off right now. Is that you gone? Yep. Okie dokie, let's dive into it and see what it is that's happening. So Iron Sights posted up right here, leak for a cargo container objective. Not much information at this point, but there is an objective code named cargo container, which has you call in a pelican that drops a cargo container. There is also a vehicle linked to this objective that is named the cargo car. It's unknown what the container is used for, but I suspect we will be capturing and transporting something to and from the container. Now this is so damn interesting, it's insane, as we've been looking for those new objectives, the new missions that can run alongside the storyline, and it appears that there is a cargo container mission now inside of the files that are hopefully going to be making its way into the game. As to what it's going to do, what it's going to mean, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this has got something to do with the gloom. I think it would be pretty interesting, that's for sure. Let me know your tinfoil hat theories down in the comment section below. And moving into your top comments, like I stated, yesterday was a humbling day indeed, and we're just going to go ahead and show you guys exactly what was said. But this one right here with 240 likes, it states, I was wondering why Vernon Wells was being flooded with players. I'm sad but happy the community is tight-knit to come together to remember a fallen Helldiver. Another one states, went back to the bots just yesterday, was surprised that the station moved over to that planet, but now it all makes sense for Colin. And finally, rest in peace, Colin, my brother in arms and heart. Now, I absolutely love this, and I love that's probably my favorite thing about this community is that no matter what it is we stand on, no matter which area it is that we stand on inside of the map, we all kind of rally together really when it makes sense and when it counts the most. So Vernon Wells' push yesterday, although we did not succeed in the full liberation of it, was still quite humbling to be a part of. And I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody in the community. It's so great to be a part of that sort of stuff. And I absolutely love it when we do those sorts of things. Now, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, post notifications turned on. Thank you so much again for watching, guys. I appreciate all of your faces. And as always, up until the next time, I'll see you in the clouds.
See what it is.
Šta zbog obući? Pa ostavi to, uzet ću.
I'll add my beer by I won't. Thank you, my friend. But I must return to the hunt. Farewell.
Dead Space is a survival horror game series with a strong emphasis on space engineering. Unlike numerous other popular sci-fi games, you're not playing as a highly trained soldier who knows exactly what to do in every situation and has a lot of luck. Instead, you're an engineer who's supposed to fix a communications problem on a spaceship, who ends up needing to engineer his way out of a terrible situation. Ever since I was probably too young to play the original 2008 version of the game, the space setting and engineering focus of Dead Space was intriguing to me. After finishing several college degrees in engineering and space studies, I thought it would be interesting to see just how accurate the space engineering elements of the game actually are, or if it's all just technobabble and miraculous black boxes. So I decided to review the game in the most engineer-esque way possible, in extreme detail. To this end, we'll go through the game chronologically, one chapter at a time, to identify errors and accuracies in the game's portrayal of space and engineering, while avoiding spoilers as much as possible. While avoiding spoilers to this video, I can say that I definitely recommend the game to anyone interested in space engineering, as long as you don't mind the more hardcore elements. That is to say, a lot of people, as well as YouTube, aren't really the biggest fans of blood and gore or extreme violence, which is basically all of the actual gameplay of Dead Space. For this video though, I've cut out as much of that stuff as possible, but whatever little is left is included for educational purposes. I also want to point out up front that I won't be reviewing the tools or suits of Dead Space, considering that either of those topics would be long enough for their own reviews. Before we get started though, if we're going to be analyzing sci-fi technology for realism, it's probably worth defining what that actually means in the context of a futuristic setting. In his book, The Physics of Superheroes, Dr. James Kakalios investigates how comic book superheroes stand up against the laws of physics. In this book, he uses a rule of miracle exceptions to determine which superheroes can be considered realistic. In other words, every superhero is allowed one miracle exception to the laws of physics for them to still be considered realistic. Applying the same rule to Dead Space, we'll consider the miracle exception of the series to be the unified field theory. Without going into excessive detail, a unified field theory is a means of uniting the fundamental forces of the universe into a single cohesive equation. In current quantum theories, the electromagnetic force and the strong and weak nuclear forces are all interrelated, but gravity is not. So a unified field theory would explain how these three fundamental forces interact with gravity. In the Dead Space universe, this theory has been discovered, and through its application, allows the manipulation of gravity similarly to how electromagnetic manipulation is commonplace today. Thus, for the purposes of our space and engineering review here, we'll consider the technological ramifications of the unified field theory to be allowable under this miracle exception rule. So with all that being said, now that we have our boundary conditions defined and the stated objective of this review in mind, let's get started with the review. Right off the bat, let's start with the faster-than-light propulsion system used in the Dead Space universe, that being the shockpoint drive. While not specifically explained in the series, the shockpoint drive is theorized to be similar in functionality to an Alcubierre warp drive. This method of faster-than-light propulsion shows up occasionally in other science fiction settings, and is often considered one of the more plausible means of achieving superluminal propulsion, considering that it doesn't necessarily violate any physical laws, or at least does so less than other approaches. Basically, the way this system works is that space-time itself is pulled from the front of the ship and pushed behind the ship. The end result of this is that this bubble of space-time is being propelled forward through the surrounding space-time at superluminal velocities. But the space-time inside the bubble is not itself moving faster than the speed of light. If we can assume that some of the more complex astrophysical problems with this technology have been resolved through the use of the unified field theory, then I don't think it's necessary for the shockpoint drive to require its own miracle exception, and so we're still within our one exception allowance. Taking a look at the bridge of the Kellan, we see a recurring theme, which is an excessive amount of protruding objects that could easily pinch a hand or give you a nasty cut if you were to be so unfortunate as to fall into them, such as if the ship were to make a sharp turn or if the gravity suddenly failed. Contrary to that, though, we also see a fair amount of handles that could be used to stabilize yourself in the event of gravity failure or for moving around in zero gravity, and as a way to secure yourself in the event of a collision or a rough landing. Once again, utilizing the unified field theory and gravity manipulation, Kellion approaches the USG Ishimura by way of an automated docking system utilizing gravity tethers, which makes sense for precision flight operations in space to be able to have computer control, making sure that there's less room for operator error. But in the event of a failure of such a system, as can be seen here, then there ought to be a manual override so that an operator can take control and guide the craft in safely. Blast shields are always a good thing on space windows like this. However, unless the windows are constructed of a very strong material, this poses a structural weak point in the design of the ship. And in the event of a micrometeoroid impact or other space debris impacting this part of the ship, hull breach can occur more easily in this area, which is an obvious hazard. Later on, we'll see, though, that there is reason to believe that this is especially a strong material here. I will say, just as a general observation, is that the dead space suits have a lot more armor than is probably necessary. Although in this scenario, that actually does come in quite handy. Another recurring theme encountered early on is the low railings in the docking bay of the Ishimura, especially over these very high vantage points and in places where there will be heavy cargo moved around. Definitely would want to have more secure guide rails to prevent people from falling off. Again, this is slightly offset by the use of the unified field theory for artificial gravity controls, but even for ships intended to have artificial gravity should also be designed for safety in the event that gravity were to fail for whatever reason. As with any good spaceship, the Ishimura has double airlock doors, so that in the event of a hull breach that is able to seal off that section and prevent the atmosphere from escaping in adjoining sections. The emergency lighting throughout the ship could probably use a bit of work. On the one hand, exits should be clearly illuminated in the event of an evacuation, but also the path to get to the exit should also be visible as well. Also, cutting the lights in an emergency situation is probably not a good idea. Same can be said for the quarantine system, which makes sense for keeping in potentially hazardous objects or scenarios, but again, cutting the lights doesn't help anything here. Throughout the ship, we also see a large amount of unsecured cargo that poses a hazard in the event of gravity failure, where you have large massive objects that could be thrown around and potentially impact somebody. Although given the present state of the ship, this is somewhat understandable. In any case, though, cargo securement should be considered so you don't have large objects floating around. Especially when balancing the mass of a spacecraft as well, which probably isn't as much of a concern for a ship as large as the Ishimura. But having unsecure mass can change the center of gravity of a spaceship, which can make calculations of its flight path more difficult or inaccurate. You can see that there are lockers for securing cargo in some places, as well as in various parts of the ship, dedicated securements for cargo, but they're definitely not universal. One thing that can be noticed pretty early on is the use of blue and orange colors in the user interface and hologram displays. This is a particularly nice choice, not only because orange and blue are fairly complementary colors, but also because that these are colors that are commonly seen in the environment of Earth. So because humans are typically adapted to living on Earth, at least in the current time, blue light is especially useful in maintaining a circadian rhythm and helping you know when is daytime, essentially. In space, where the day-night cycle can be altered if it's present at all, blue light can be helpful for establishing a sleep and wake times for people who are not otherwise experiencing sunrise and sunset. Likewise, yellow and orange light is helpful on the opposite effect, whereas here we usually encounter that color of light when it's getting dark and we're turning lights on. So yellow and orange light can also be helpful for maintaining a circadian rhythm when it's time to go to sleep. These Earth-like colors are also a nice departure from the otherwise dark and metallic industrial environment too, giving it a bit more comfortable of a setting. Throughout the game, we can see that the Ishimura has a mostly consistent overall industrial aesthetic, which, while it looks cool for a game, is pretty harsh and probably uncomfortable for long duration living in such an environment. Is also generally hazardous due to sharp edges and high potential for injury, especially in the event of a sudden knock or impact to the ship, or, as I mentioned already, if gravity were to fail. Emergency phones are widely available to allow for an easy call for help if an accident were to occur, although this particular implementation of these phones is not the most secure system, as we'll see in future chapters. The lengthwise tram system used for transporting people and cargo from one end of the ship to the other definitely makes sense for a vessel of this size. However, the fact that there is only one line servicing the entire ship seems like a bit of an oversight. While it's not necessarily very clear that this is the only tram on the entire ship, the fact that it's the only one used in the story and that it is referenced multiple times that this tram needs to be repaired to progress suggests that this is the only tram on the ship. This is bound to interfere with timely transportation from one part of the ship to the other, as well as emergency evacuations where people need to get off the ship quickly. The lack of redundancy of a single tram line is a problem enough, but at the very least there is a system for replacing damaged tram cars, which is utilized in this first chapter. Frequent save stations offer an opportunity to record accidents or noteworthy occurrences on the ship, and the use of physical media, as can be seen from this disk drive on the side here, is also a good idea, considering that disk-based media is not subject to damage from radiation as electronic storage is, which is especially useful for preserving information on spaceborne systems. Throughout the ship there are a fair amount of warning signs present, however they're definitely not universal. There's also an abundance of these loosely secured metal fans throughout the ship for ventilation purposes. In case it's not obvious why metal bladed fans aren't as common as they once were, this is a very serious cut hazard in the event that one of these were to come loose and impact somebody, or if somebody were to just fall into one of the vents. That would be very unfortunate if one of these blades were to impact somebody. The stasis module and associated technology is never really explained in Dead Space, although it could be assumed that the time-slowing effects could have something to do with the distortion of space in a localized area, tying it back in with the unified field theory, theoretically and to some extent arbitrarily, for the purposes of in-game consistency. Distorting space in a localized region could also result in distortion of time within that region, so perhaps the stasis system is a controlled application of this distortion effect. However, this is mostly speculation, and unless that is how this system operates, then it is going beyond the one miracle exception allowance. These high-speed doors seem to be utilizing some excessive force here, which really seems pretty unnecessary. The only thing I could think of for why you might want this is in the event of a hull breach, then the door needs to force its way closed to prevent the atmosphere from draining from a nearby section. Even then, this system is still extremely dangerous. If this were to fail when there is somebody trying to use the door, there could be catastrophic results for the person trying to pass through it. The locator system makes a lot of sense for a maze-like environment such as this, and always being able to find where you're supposed to be going is definitely helpful. However, if the ship is designed in such a way that a locator is necessary to find where you're supposed to be going, it probably could have had a much more intuitive floor plan. Something else that comes up fairly often is the lack of restraints with which one can secure themselves in the event of a gravity failure or if the ship rocks, like in Star Trek. For example, this chair here doesn't have any restraints to it, it's just a chair. You couldn't strap yourself in the event of gravity failure or if there's some rough conditions for flying. There are a fair amount of things to grab onto around the ship, but not much that will actually secure you in place in the event that becomes necessary. Having these sort of circuit breakers for critical systems readily available around the ship allows them to be repaired more quickly in the event of a power failure. Instead of having to go to a dedicated electrical room or a place that's out of the way, the problem could possibly be fixed right on the spot. There are quite a few volatile and hazardous chemicals that are just lying around the ship that are both not in secure storage and also just not secured to the ship itself. This poses obvious toxic and ignition hazards, especially in the event of a gravity failure, where these chemical containers could just be floating around and impact something at high velocities and explode. One of the more egregious problems I noticed while playing this is that during the course of the game, I was able to hear announcements over the PA system in Spanish, French, Chinese, German, Russian, English, and possibly Italian. The problem with this multiple language system is ensuring situational awareness among all crew members who need to be informed about what's going on. For example, if there is an emergency scenario and everybody needs to get out of a certain room, but not everybody can understand the language being spoken, not everyone is going to understand the situation well enough to be immediately informed of the hazard, and so some people might not be able to get out of the situation quickly enough or understand what's going on. I suppose this could potentially be useful for contacting only certain crew members, but the utility of this is probably not greater than the hazard posed by limiting the information available to all crew members at a certain time. It's a bit odd that all the lights here happen to be on one circuit and there's no backups. Also, there's a general lack of emergency lighting in this room and others that have this similar sort of circuit breaker situation. In keeping with the industrial aesthetic of the game, there are some pretty overly complex vending machines throughout the ship, which is kind of cool looking, but in general, they are probably overcomplicated for their purpose. Engineers typically try to reduce complexity of systems rather than making them unnecessarily complex. The suit upgrade station, while a cool idea, definitely has potential for injuries for anybody who would be inside the station and not properly secured. Really would be a shame if that were to happen to somebody. Having loose cables on the ground like this is just an obvious trip and electrocution hazard. We'll come across these unsecured shelves quite a bit throughout the ship, which further illustrates that there's a lot of cargo on board that is not secured and could potentially be hazardous in the event of a gravity failure or sudden shock. The kinesis module is the prime example of the usefulness of the unified field theory. It allows you to remotely move massive objects that would otherwise be difficult to move using traditional means. As we've already seen, this would be especially useful for industrial applications. However, the ability to lift and move large massive objects without much resistance could easily pose hazards to anybody nearby that might not be aware of the operations going on or just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Especially considering the speed with which the kinesis module can launch these objects. In place of railings or anything to keep people from falling off the loading deck, the tram station utilizes these folding shutters, the safety aspect of which could probably be improved. The tram also continues the industrial design theme of the ship, although it does seem to be rather heavily armored for its application. This safety equipment has clearly not been inspected, which is a great hazard for anybody who is in need of safety equipment from this particular station. There's a poster in this area for the security phones to indicate that they can be used for security assistance as well as emergency support. While this is clearly a good thing to have these posters available to provide information about ship systems, they're not very common throughout the ship. This waiting room design is not very friendly looking. Similarly to the security phone poster, these signs indicating that counseling is available only seem to show up in the medical section of the ship, which is good on the one hand, but they also probably ought to be placed throughout the rest of the ship as well. More specifically to space travel purposes, having psychological treatment options is definitely more important when you're in a confined environment of a spaceship for a long period of time, as this sort of activity does have a noticeable psychological impact. On this ship at least, being alone for an extended period of time, or in a small crew, is not as much of a concern, but being a great distance from Earth or wherever else the crew members might call home could still be a source of mental strain during long trips into deep space. This large, apparently electromagnetic scanning system is right in the middle of a primary walkway. While it can be moved out of the way using kinesis, this is still a strange design for a walkable area. There's a wiring diagram on the inside of this junction box that any electrical engineers watching might have more fun with than I did. The fact that this ceiling is collapsed could be an indication that it was not very structurally sound to begin with, or that there was a rather large impact on it that was in excess of its rated loads. It's a bit hard to tell here though, so I think we can give it the benefit of the doubt. At several points throughout the game, we can see that the ship has a universal coordinated time across the entirety of the vessel. This makes sense, as when you're far away enough from civilization, it might make more sense to have your own schedule for operations on board the ship, rather than rely on the clock of a distant planet. There are multiple medical logs that can be found during the game, including details on patient medical conditions and interactions with their doctors. None of these logs are secured, which would seem to make doctor-patient confidentiality more difficult. On several occasions, we can find these posters about safe usage of stasis, where they say an engine in stasis is a safe engine, which, sure, as long as the engine remains in stasis. Considering that these stasis systems only tend to operate on the order of a few seconds at a time, considering an engine in stasis to be safe is a bit presumptuous. As we'll see throughout the game, the cargo lifts that are used to transport people and cargo between floors are generally not very secure, without much in the way of railings or handles to hold onto while you're riding them. Going back to the earlier discussion of blue and orange lighting, this sort of sterile white lighting is much less comforting or relaxing from a warmer orange light, sort of like the difference between incandescent and LED bulbs. This might not be a big deal for short-term exposure, such as on the medical decks, but speaking from experience, having a bland white environment for an extended period of time does get a little bit old. In this first zero gravity section, we can see that the ship's artificial gravity can be disabled or fail in localized sections of the ship. Fortunately, thanks to the metal deck, crew members could walk around using magnetic boots. There is a very subtle change in lighting upon transitioning from a vacuum environment to an atmosphere. This actually has some physical basis, as light will be slightly distorted when traveling through air versus traveling through a vacuum. This distortion takes the form of absorption and scattering, and can actually be most easily seen in 3D rendering, in which volumetric absorption and scattering can have an effect on the final look of a scene. To an extent, this is also something that would need to be considered during spacewalk activities, in which your eyes are used to seeing objects through an atmosphere, whereas in the absence of air, your perception of distance is slightly altered, and so this is another thing that takes some getting used to when you go into space. One of my favorite examples of attention to detail in this game is the condensation on Isaac's suit upon re-entering an atmosphere from a vacuum. When entering a vacuum, frost will appear on the suit as a result of the rapid cooling of the air near the surface of the suit, causing water to condense and freeze onto the suit. When returning to a warm atmosphere, the frost melts, leaving a wet effect on the armor, which eventually evaporates. It's not an especially complex mechanic, but I really appreciate the detail. In a medical officer's log, we can see that the ship is equipped with zero-G therapy pods for use in treating medical and psychological issues. This makes sense in terms of treating some medical conditions such as heart issues, as the heart doesn't need to work as hard to pump blood in zero gravity. However, there are a number of health problems that the human body encounters upon exposure to zero gravity, for an extended period of time at least. Fortunately, most of these conditions take a fair amount of time to begin manifesting, so for a short duration, zero gravity could perhaps be useful. Even so, in most people who travel to space, they generally experience something known as general space adaptation syndrome, which is essentially very, very bad motion sickness. I'm an engineer, not a doctor, but if there were medical benefits to zero gravity, even over short periods of time, the likely nausea and headaches that would be caused by general space adaptation syndrome might seem to reduce their usefulness for psychological treatment. You can see here that we have a large pipe of liquid hydrogen flowing right past a line of oxygen, as well as return air and a heat exchanger with hot metal warning signs. This is all the right ingredients for an explosion, especially considering that the oxygen line is leaking. These pipes are also directly above a walkway where somebody could easily bump into or damage them. Something with so much explosive potential should probably be better secured. We've got a nice Star Trek reference here to transparent aluminum that apparently is what's being used for the windows in the ship. This goes back to the discussion of the Kellyon Bridge, where the windows are pretty large, but considering how structurally sound they seem to be even after the crash, it makes a bit more sense knowing that there are transparent metallic alloys in use. Besides the obvious electrocution hazard of these exposed high-voltage fuses, there is potential for these important circuits to be interrupted inadvertently by flying random objects in the event of a gravity failure, or somebody shooting them with a plasma cutter. But on the other side, at least there is ready access to these critical systems in the event that they need to be repaired. Maybe it's just me, but this poster doesn't seem very welcoming. Once again, we have another critical door malfunction that is exerting excessive force in trying to close. This is clearly a safety hazard. Yeah, not much else to say. The quarantine system, once again, makes sense in a medical setting, but the fact that all the lights turn off is not really going to be helping much. There are no stairs connecting the two floors of this primary medical lab. Instead, there's only a single cargo lift and an alternative route that goes through some back hallways and other laboratories. This could especially be a problem if there was an emergency on one floor or the other and someone needs to get between them quickly. And if the cargo lift is out of order, there may be no way to get to the other floor in time. This personal medical log detailing a patient's condition is left unsecured in a public restroom. Given that this is 500 years in the future, while the hologram technology is not the best resolution, at the very least it seems that they are able to project a hologram from a single point rather than from multiple projectors. How exactly they're doing this isn't really my specialty, but I don't think this falls under a miracle exception considering how far ahead in the future it is. The biological prosthetic center of the medical deck appears to be based on the premise of growing human bodies for purpose of obtaining organs for transplantation, up to and including full limbs, it seems. While this technically makes sense and could work in practice, there's bound to be an abundance of ethical issues that I'm sure that they have disregarded or figured out by now. The hydrazine bomb that Isaac uses to blast open this barricade in the medical wing operates by detonating a hydrazine canister using a medical electric shock pad system. Since the hydrazine is still secured in its vessel, assuming it's not leaking at this point, it wouldn't necessarily ignite on its own because there's no exposed oxygen. However, if the shock pads are generating a sufficient current through the canister, and potentially even arcing through the gas within it, this could cause the gas to expand beyond the failure stress of the canister, exposing it to the oxygen of the air. And the end result would still be an explosion, so that part makes sense. There's a circuit breaker here that can switch between the lights or blast doors over the showers. Okay. Regardless of how the stasis system operates in this universe, it appears that some sort of singularity can be contained in these capsules that causes a stasis effect in its surrounding area upon disruption. When a hull breach occurs, the immediate area is sealed off using blast doors. This is a particularly effective automated system to prevent decompression of the entire area, and could be accomplished easily enough with pressure sensors in the room. At the end of the chapter, we found out that the Ishimura has entered a decaying orbit thanks to the large mass of rock from the planet that it's pulling with it.
Isaac. Here. What the hell's happening? The computer says the Ishimura's engines are offline. We're on a decaying orbit toward Aegis 7.
Oh god. I have to get to engineering.
Essentially what's happening is that the Ishimura is no longer able to maintain the velocity required to keep within a stable orbit around the planet.
Kako ste?
Što se čini?
Moj ćala si igra električara kad dođemo s posla i Keva, znaš. Negdje oko 2 sata. Keva dođe iz njene firme, ja dođem iz svoje. Moj ćale obara one prekidače po kući, on za faze, ispituje.
Pa nije mogao to sam.
Ne trebamo ja. On je to radio i kad sam ja bio na poslu, znaš. Samo on nije završio taj rad. Sad ga ono u detalje, znaš, radi. Ono što ja hoću je tanjir supe. Kako ti ide sa
Sectional hamstring. Welcome to my channel.
Karakterom.
CHEAP viewers on Botrash Ru Arcade Hall.
Kesić ispizdao.
Radi čega?
No?
Radi čega?
Pa, za novo sam uspio da skupim 10 divajna i 1000 i nešto. Izvolite.
On se previše fokusira na te divine orbove, a koristi ih samo kao platežno sredstvo, što kao kapiram, ok, to ima smisla. Ali ono što sam ja rekao da bolje da skuplja one kako se zovu oni što ih skrepuješ. Da, Orb of Chance, bolje skuplja Orb of Chance. Možda skrataš takve stvari da te boli glava. Ne mora biti biti amulet, može biti neki određeni item koji inače ne možeš normalno naći. Ako startuješ sa, ne znam, 20-50 Orb of Chance i imaš jedno isto toliko od tih osnovnih itema koje probaš da upgradeuješ, šanse da ćeš dobiti vjerojatno neki unikat koji ima dobru cenu ili je tebi koristan lično.
Evo, ja ovdje sad samo ličujem i samo skupljam ove predmeti da imaš kao tier 5, tier 4.
Kako tier 5, tier 4? Aha, one žute, šta?
Da.
Dobro.
Jer svi ih zaobilaze.
Misliš imaju bonuse neke jake, šta? To kaže.
Može da dobiješ jako dobre stvari na njemu.
Naravno da možeš, ali ljudi nemaju vremena da čitaju isto kao Kesić. Možda sam ja rekao da možeš da, ako imaš oko za detalje, ne treba ja da čitam pola sata. Dovoljno me da pogledam majke mi znam da ti kažem da ima da ga.
Evo, znaš ti kad bi on uspio onako čovjeka da prevede kao ja? Dogovor je bio bez ovoga da mu odradim, kako se zove, bez pasiva, bez rezista i toga.
Dobro.
I ja uzmem, gdje god je bilo recimo blizu boss da mogu da mu odradim, ja sam mu to odradio. I u liku na kraju...
Da?
I ja mu sve to odradim i na kraju mi lik da časti me preko.
A koliko ste se dogovorili?
Dogovor je bilo da ide 2 po aktu. 2 divajna.
I dao ti je 12 šta na kraju?
Ne.
6.
Treba da mi da 2, on mi dao 4. Ano, dobar dan. Izvolite. Ne ide. Ne, nisam. Trenutno nisam uradio. Da, zadržavam se, ide. Znam. A Bože moj, u međuvremenu ću ja i da nađem drugi posao. Znam, kredite mi da nije problem. Hvala nam puno.
Sad da pališ i da opet se zjebam s time, ne valja.
Po čemu sad ne valja?
Ukopčaj i ukopčaj, paš da vidiš.
Je radi njega izbilo?
Malo pre sam upalio, znači smrzavam se već 2 dana se smrzavam. Upalio sam ga, ladno mi, upalio sam ga. Samo što sam ga upalio, ugasilo se.
Upali tu, na ovaj.
Na šta da ga upalim?
onda je do njega.
Viš da ne dati.
Pa viš da je do njega. On je nekom sporu. Donesi gom, da probamo na ovo.
Ma, pa baj, da ćeš samo... Ne treba, hvala.
Milatana. Welcome to my channel.
Oh, look how much space we have. Fantazija, fantazija. Izuzetno. A to sad radi sve, sad sve radi. Ulična setiljka.
We the pod, huh?
Remember the 2017 live-action remake of Ghost in the Shell? I remember seeing it with my best friend, who's a huge fan of the 1995 anime film, and I also remember her being really upset when it was over. But I didn't know the original all that well. I'd only seen it a couple times years before, and I came out of the remake saying, that was just a bad copy of RoboCop. And I'm gonna explain why that is, but first we need to establish who the main character, Major Motoko Kusanagi, is in the original material, to understand how she was changed in the American remake, which causes all the similarities to RoboCop I'm gonna go on to lay out. Because the studio decided they needed to give a backstory and character journey to the Major, which she did not have in the anime. They assumed a lot of new Western viewers wouldn't accept an unconventional story like that of the anime, heavily focused on themes and questions about humanity. Very, very light on character. We don't know anything about her past, or even when she got her cybernetic body, and the stories being told aren't about figuring that out. She's just a fully cyborg person, and she's not the only one. And if you're gonna make money on a $100 million budget Hollywood remake, you better dumb down the source material and give the audience a nice, easily digestible character story. So instead of focusing on the Section 9 organization or the squad she works with, or even the principal themes of technology and humanity, all of it becomes set dressing for a personal story centered on discovering the Major's identity. If you're only a fan of the anime or the 1989 manga on which the anime is based, you essentially know nothing about her backstory. She's a mystery. And you know what? It would be fine to inject some character development into the anime's story. I think that would only make it better. Flesh out the characters a little bit, connect them more directly to what's going on. Hell, even some fans of the manga dislike the anime's interpretation of the Major, because the manga has a Major with a lot more personality. She's quite expressive, humorous even, whereas the anime makes her cold and nearly emotionless the entire time, to match with the serious, philosophical, ponderous tone it has. Ghost in the Shell's crazy future has the Tachikomas, and while they may pack a punch, so do the mechs in the world of Mecha Blood, the sponsor of this video. Do battle against robots in this high-octane retro shooter using 2D sprites developed by the one-man operation at Crumb Games. Blaster shotgun, plasma gun, and rocket launcher as you explore the installations of those bastards at Torx Corp. Mecha Blood brings the classic 16-bit era fun as you're facing challenging swarms of enemies, ripping them apart with your saw blades, lunging across the room, dashing to the sides to avoid gunfire, and finding supplies around the map. Tear through 15 levels of boomer shooter action, and don't let a single one of those damned robots live. Like what you see? Grab it on Steam and let them have it. Mecha Blood! Abel, say Mecha Blood. Mecha Blood! Mecha Blood! Mecha Blood! It's Mecha Blood! So I'm open to exploring the Major more in a live-action remake. Go for it. But what you wouldn't know if you're just a fan of the anime is that the Major already had a great backstory in the 2002 anime series Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, a series that is much closer to the manga's original tone and portrayal of the characters. Of course, every set of Ghost in the Shell stories has their own continuity outside of the manga. You don't have to consider anything canon, but this fan-favorite 52-episode, 2 seasons of television gives the Major a backstory that is phenomenal and could have easily been incorporated into the remake. It's a really beautiful, personal...
It is done.
Pozdrav, Vlado! Izvini. Pa ne nego Vlado tako... Znam. Pa jesam, ali Vlada me tako nekad... I onda se ja javim Vladi.
Rešio sam problem kursora.
Kako kursora?
Rekao mi čovjek pa...
2 monitora, znam. Da, 2 monitora.
Kursor na TV-u sad imam, pa rekao mi na forumu jedan dečko šta da radim.
I?
I ja odradio to i to.
I to je to.
I to je to, radi, a ne čuje se.
Promenio si hercažu ili si stavio TV... Stavio si onaj responsive mod u opcijama, to?
Pa i nije baš, ja sam išao
Da.
na miša i onda sam trebao da uključim ovaj display pointer trails i da ga stavim na nulu. I onda radi.
A ti imaš trails uključen? Ozbiljno? Ozbiljno? Ne, sad ne, sad ga imaš?
Da.
Bez toga neće da radi?
Bez toga neće radi. Znači jeste da se malo trails ovo vuče, ali mi nije loše.
Dobro, zvuči kao ne baš idealno rešenje, ali dobro.
Pa šta mogu radim?
Ako ti to treba, onda to je to.
Ako ti to radi...
Ej, šta mi radiš, ej, šta mi radiš, pa mi dušu vadiš. Pa mi dušu vadiš.
Fresh meat.
Ti to koristiš za nešto ili?
Da puštam neki film.
Znači radi sad dobro, koliko može dobro da radi, ja?
A, to.
A ona opcija što znam da ima da ti šeruje preko Wi-Fi-a sliku na TV.
Pa nisam ja to radio preko Wi-Fi, ja sam radio...
Mislim, ne znam da li ti je Smart TV pa ima opciju da ga se prekopčaš na njega preko Wi-Fi-a.
Pa TV jeste Smart, ali nisam radio preko Wi-Fi-a.
Jesi ikad gledao nešto na telefonu i onda dati opciju share to TV?
Casting.
Cast, nebitno, kako se zove isti kurac.
Ja mobilni imam od pre mjesec dana, tako da uglavnom nisam.
Dobro, Vučić te ne sluša, nije ni važno. Uglavnom imaš foru kad odeš... Da, znam, ali nije to tema ovoga razgovora. Kad gledaš nešto na YouTube-u, određeni telefoni podržavaju tu opciju toga što kaže nenadkastovanja, da ti on podeli...
Ne imali, nisam ni probao to nikad.
A bez da povezuješ išta kablima, ako imaš Wi-Fi mreža na koju se kači TV i računar, on može da ti automatski deli na tvoj zahtev može da deli video. Ukoliko želiš samo da gledaš, ukoliko ti ne služi baš kao interaktivno nešto da ti... Pa nisi imao po tebe sve to da radiš kad si mogu samo u opciju da napraviš, ajde. Čudim me ti to prvo nije palo na pamet.
Pa bre, probao sam svašta, šta znam.
Ovo nisi. No, ajde.
In all my years exploring the steppes, I have never encountered this road.
Ajmo sada malo
It
da
seems to
gledamo
have simply emerged out of the basin. I cannot guess why yet. The ancients carved deep into the salt of this area, we assume, for its protective qualities. A structure like this could have held powerful evil at bay. Or perhaps kept it locked inside.
Jian Yu Min Yen S Yue Fan Hua Bin Wan Fen Gao Xin De Chi Dai Xi Jinping Jusi Min Yen Di Fan Ven Servia Wo Junsin Gansie Xi Jinping Jusi De Yin Min Lin Dao Ye Gansie Zhongguo Zhenmin De Yui Gansie Yue Lai Yue Duo De Zhongguo Penyu Lai Servia Liu You Zhongguo Shi Women Cuidad Hitsuo Huo Banji Women Jian Jin Ichie Sune
A, molim. Zato što Vlada voli da mi pušta glupost, ja pucam sam ja njemu glupost, da vidi kako je to ispiranje mozga.
Pa meni to ne
A, mogu ja i jače, mogu ja nešto glupije, ne znam. Čekaj. Lju Petrović.
Cipele koje u posljednje vrijeme postaju najpopularnije jesu takozvane barefoot cipele ili bosonoge cipele. Radi se o tome da su ljudi počeli da proizvode cipele koje imaju
pa reci
široki
Vladi isto tako, po istoj logici reci Vladi da ode u opcije, da stvikuje mikrofon i da smanji sensitivity, čisto da ne bi slušao njegov TV. Nisam rekao Vladi da ga ne želim da ga slušam, samo sam rekao da mu je prejak mikrofon sensitivity. Znaš? Nisam to da ga disrespektujem, nego razumeš, mogu ja to da radim, ali ne želim to da radim, razumeš? Mislim da vas dovoljno poštujem da ne morate da slušate ono što ja slušam. Boli me kurac, gledaj šta hoćeš, samo sam ti rekao idi u opcije za mikrofon i smanji mikrofon boost, smanji mikrofon boost. Ili uključi onaj noise filtering, da ne moram da čujem tvoj TV koji je na 30 metara daleko od tebe. Ako slušamo Milana kako masturbira i kako mu se trese stolica dok gleda porniće, ne moramo da slušamo, znači, Vučića i tenis. Znači, to sam rekao Gradenačkom 1000 puta. Bori se, neću da slušam kako gledaš tenis i Đokovića. Ne interesujem.
Jebote,
Evo kaže, kako čuješ? Pa kao čujem, jebote. Znači, narikto si taj TV, ne da se čuje, nego razvalje. Ne znam. Čuje se. A evo ga, Boris. Nisam antiprotivan, već ono, samo, kažem, malo razumevanja, pošto mogu ja da budem vrlo nerazuman. Mogu da slušam Mijano Brnabić, nije problem. Ako to više volite. Ako vam Vučić na kineskom ne odgovara. Ja, je li moguće da je snimio govor na kineskom? Jao. Stvarno prodaju guzicu za sve.
Ja mislim da bi to bio nešin stan. Ja sam pitao danas u Pečetu da su nekom tipu sredili neki posao 25 miliona evra i da je morao da im da neki reket, ali da mu je ostalo toliko para da ne zna šta će da...
Kome? Đoković?
To, daj da im damo reket, samo da...
Nije Đoković bre, nego ovi iz SNS-a.
Mhm.
Dobro sam sad bre, ručao sam pasulj mnogo dobar što mi žena spremila dobar pasulj i sredio sam da imam kursor na ekranu opet.
Yeah. Koja vidim vjerojatno u pitanju razlika u hercaži. Ajde. Zar ti nije to Nenad sredi i to radilo?
actually.
story that deepens her character while still being connected to the themes of Ghost in the Shell and the central plot of the season. So did the remake use any of this story? Or did they say, let's just copy RoboCop instead? Judging by the title of this video, I'll give you one guess. There have always been basic similarities between Ghost in the Shell and RoboCop ever since the manga. RoboCop came out 2 years before. It was a global hit. It makes sense that it would be one of the influences that inspired the manga, like Blade Runner, Neuromancer, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. Ghost in the Shell and RoboCop are both stories about cyborg cops, and both stories have a showdown with a giant robotic tank with superior firepower. Fine, basic similarities noted. But the live-action movie says, well, why don't we go all out and copy as much as we can for our new original story that barely has anything to do with the source material? Let the comparisons begin. This might be overwhelming at first, but trust me, I'll wrap it all up nicely in the end. The first major comparison is what the major fundamentally is. In the remix world, she is the first fully cyborg person, only her human brain intact, created specifically as a weapon.